Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network, Monday, April 18th. It is a brand new week on the show. Ian Cameron and Andrew McInnis are with you today, ready to break down the Monday card. We've got 6 games in the NHL tonight, and of course, we're down to the last 2 full weeks of the regular season. So we have this week, and then we have next week with Friday, April the 29th, being the final day of the regular season. So here we go. We're going to find out in the next couple of weeks who's in the playoff. There's certainly a lot to be determined on the Western Conference side of things. The Eastern Conference side of things after last night, Andrew, is all set in stone, at least in terms of the 8 teams that will be participating in the playoffs. Washington officially clinched that final spot by virtue of the Islanders' loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs last night. So we know all 8 playoff teams in the Eastern Conference. It's just a matter of who's going to play who in the first round. But we know it'll be Carolina, the New York Rangers, the Pittsburgh Penguins, Florida Panthers, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Boston Bruins, and the Washington Capitals in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. That's nice and clear and pretty cut and dried. The Western Conference, not so much. We've still got lots at stake. We've still got 2 wild card spots in the West that have to be wrapped up and solidified. Dallas and Nashville currently own those with 91 points apiece. You've got the Vegas Golden Knights hanging around at 87 points, although it's starting to look more and more like their best pathway to the playoffs, Andrew, is catching LA for third in the Pacific Division as opposed to one of the 2 wildcard spots, especially considering that Vegas has a game in hand on LA. They've played 1 game more than both Dallas and Nashville. So that's Vancouver's still alive by a thread, but they are still alive, at least mathematically, with 84 points. So, Andrew, I mean, I've talked a lot this weekend about what was going on, but we haven't had you on the show since Friday, actually Thursday. Your thoughts on the weekend, the playoff picture, anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, well, I mean, I saw you tweeting about it. Many other NHL experts were tweeting about it, and hey, 22-0, the record for favorites over the last couple of days here. Everybody's kind of expecting these underdogs to come to play, underdogs to play shocker and upset teams with these big plus prices. Not so fast, These teams, whether or not they're in the playoffs or not, they want to end their season off on a great note, and particularly we're seeing that with some of these teams that are out of the playoffs, but they still want to finish their season off on a good note. So I think that you saw it in the NBA in the last 2-3 weeks, and you're seeing it in the NHL now. Which teams care? Which teams don't? Which teams can you start betting consistently against? I mean, how about the Coyotes? I mean, a team that everybody loves to fade in general, but now, I mean, if you're not scoring 4 or 5, 6 goals against them, what are you doing? Because it just seems like it's an average thing against them and so many other teams as well. Then you take a look at teams like Vancouver, like you mentioned, they're not out of it, but every single game for them, what it feels like the past 3 weeks, has almost been a do or die game. So Washington, they get hot at the right time after a big slump for them. They finally clinched. They've been waiting on that. Colorado, I mean, scoring 6 goals seems to be a normal thing for them. I don't know how a lot of teams are going to beat them in the playoffs with the amount of depth that they have. Florida Panthers, they continue to make it look easy. They aren't taking their foot off the gas pedal. The Buffalo and Philadelphia, as you and I call it, the toilet bowl. The bottom tier teams, we're starting to figure out which
it wasn't a toilet bowl for me on the weekend with those 2 games, Andrew. It was a beautiful toilet. It was a clean toilet.
I like it.
It was a wonderful toilet. I had the best shit ever on that toilet. Why? Because I took Buffalo both games, the overtime total in Buffalo both games, the full game over in both games. That was a beautiful bowl, not a toilet
and
bowl.
That makes my point, Ian. Operation Fade Philadelphia. One team out of those 2 cared a little bit more. So we can make money on the good teams. We can also make some money on the poor teams as well. Like you just said, you did on Buffalo. I also had a piece of Buffalo as well. More so in the second meeting, actually. And I find that you've heard me talk about these when teams play each other, twice in a row. Sometimes you can try and get fancy and figure out these systems or, trends you might find. Sometimes it's just like, hey, this team is just better right now. I'm going to play them again. And it sounds like you and I both did that.
It is. I mean, we need jerk, right? After the Saturday Philly-Buffalo game, it's easy to say, okay, now Philly's at home, Philly's in revenge, they're going to win the return match, right? No, It wasn't that way to me. I think there's a legit difference in just being fired up to play nightly. from the Buffalo Sabres right now than with and let's be honest, they're playing better hockey than Philadelphia. And sure enough, they actually played even better in the game in Philly that they won yesterday than they did on Saturday night when they actually got off to a slow start and fell behind 2-0. So Buffalo Sabres are a prime example right now of teams that are out of the playoffs that you don't want to rush to bet against because they're giving you that strong effort and they're playing great hockey down the stretch, and winning games here late in the end of April matters to them. Clearly, they've established that. No question about that. So it's going to be an interesting race down the stretch, and it's an interesting card today. It was a phenomenal weekend for me, and this is another card where I'm going into it saying there's a lot of good opportunities on the board. So let's see if we can uncover some of them. We'll start with the Calgary Flames and the Chicago Blackhawks. We've got Calgary minus 310, road favorites here, 6.5 the total in this one. Calgary obviously clinches the playoff spot over the weekend. They actually had clinched it before the game against Arizona on Saturday. And it's funny because I've talked about how just an absolute automatic fade for me right now the Arizona Coyotes are, and it's been that way repeatedly for me the last several games. Unfortunately, the one bet I lost on that game was Calgary first period puck line, and that first period where actually they didn't play that bad. They outshot Arizona 15-10, but they were down 1-0. They just couldn't find the back of the net. I think they're just a little off on their finish around the net. Boy, did they clear that up in the second period. The floodgates just opened, and Calgary ended up taking over. And obviously, they lay absolute waste to an AHL team. Essentially, the Tucson Roadrunners here, essentially here is what the Arizona Coyotes are, masquerading as an NHL team right now. That's what it is. I mean, they're just so decimated. We've talked about this ad nauseum. We'll get into it more when Arizona's on the card later. But Calgary obviously just absolutely bludgeoned them 9-1. It ended up being the final score, and a great bounce back spot too, because Daryl Sutter was none too impressed with the performance against Vegas. A game where actually Andrew and I both ended up on the Golden Knights at an underdog price in that game against Calgary, and the Flames were not happy with that performance. 6-1 at home. They haven't had many of those type of losses.
We were happy though.
Yeah, we were absolutely. I wasn't happy with Vegas though against Edmonton. They didn't follow it up very well, but nevertheless, great bounce back for Calgary. We'll see how they fare here. I think it's a little bit buyer beware for certainly the late 310 or regulation. I mean, they have clinched a spot. We've seen teams, a lot of them, even if they have still something to play for. Calgary does. Calgary's trying to clinch first in the Pacific. They want to get that clinched as soon as possible. But nevertheless, we're seeing a lot of examples, Andrew. We're in that very first game after clinching a playoff spot. We're seeing some teams come up short and lose that first game. Pittsburgh did. There's against Boston on Saturday. There's many other examples too we've seen recently. So I'm not saying that makes Chicago a live dog, but to me, at this price, it absolutely, and given the spot here, it has to be dog or pass. I don't know if I have the guts to take Chicago, but I do have the guts to take the over, because Chicago is not playing very good defense. We know that. Kevin Lankinen has struggled in net. He's going to end up being in between the pipes here for the Blackhawks tonight. And the one thing we've seen from Chicago, the win against San Jose, a solid effort against Nashville, even though they fell short in that game by a score of 4-3. They haven't completely rolled over the Blackhawks. They're not good, but the effort is there. The team is trying on a nightly basis. Jonathan Taves said it, Andrew, a couple days ago. You're wearing the Blackhawk on the front of your jersey. You're playing in front of one of the original 6 franchises in the NHL. Why are you not motivated here down the stretch? That's what he basically said to the media when they asked him, where's the incentive to finish strong? And that's what he said. I don't know if the whole team's on board, but it makes sense. I mean, it's a franchise that's been around forever. You want to end up playing good hockey. So John Massey, the team told, I wouldn't talk you out of that. It's got that kind of, I don't know, dopey spot for Calgary potentially here going on the road against Chicago after clinching the spot. I mean, I could see maybe the Blackhawks chipping in offensively, but I don't know if Chicago is going to shut down Calgary. That's my biggest fear with Blackhawks money line or puck line or anything to do with Chicago from a side perspective. Because look, it's Johnny Gaudreau, it's Matt Tkachuk, it's Elias Lindholm, who is not playing at a high level up front in the forward group right now for the Calgary Flames. So I think I feel more better. I might sprinkle a couple bucks on Chicago. What the hell at plus 250, but I definitely feel much more confident over 6.5 here in this game. Andrew, Flames and the Blackhawks.
Yeah, it's a weird week, like you mentioned. There's gonna be different spots for us to look towards, and I'm gonna be honest here. For everybody at home listening, I'm not gonna be passing on every game, but what I'm telling everybody is that I'm scaling back on my unit size for the next week and a bit here until the playoffs. So
Yeah.
it's not. I'm not saying I'm just not confident in my plays, but just not betting as much. So just a little disclaimer there. But I do like the over 2.5 team total goals for Chicago Blackhawks tonight, Ian, at -110. That's what I've locked in here. I don't want to worry about what they do defensively. I don't want to worry about what Calgary does offensively. I just want to take a 2.5 in kind of a mismatch game here, and maybe a spot that I know Calgary should still be getting up for this one. Maybe they allow one or two early, and maybe we see one more goal from Calgary, get me to 3. Interest in that over just like yourself, but I love 2.5 team totals when I see fit, and I think this is a good opportunity for it.
All right, there you go. Liking the team total here, Andrew. In this one, Washington. It's nice. We got a nice contrast. Andrew's going to be low volume at this year time of year, and I'm probably going to be my usual high volume. So I like that. It's a nice
Well,
little
lower
mixture here.
units,
Lower units, yeah, lower
yeah,
units exactly. Well, like I say, 90% of my bets are quarter unit, half unit each. It has to be that way when you're going to be
yeah,
insane volume like me on a daily basis in every sport. So, again, it's all what style of betting fits you the best. That's what it's all about. Washington and Colorado. We got Colorado -200 home favorite, 6.5 the total. That's pretty juiced right now in this one. This is another clinching spot here, where we've got Colorado having clinched a playoff spot in their last game and clinched the Central Division and the #1 seed as well. I should point out, actually, it wasn't the playoff spot. They already had that. It was the Central Division and the #1 seed in the Western Conference with that 7-4 win over the Carolina Hurricanes, which people kind of hyped it up as, one of the best teams in the East, the best team points wise right now in the league, or one of them, Colorado. They're still neck and neck with Florida for that distinction, but and Colorado took care of business. Now, this spot concerns me for Colorado, especially now the Central Division's wrapped up. You got the #1 seed as well in the Western Conference wrapped up, which gives you home ice throughout the playoffs in the West. This is definitely the spot where you could say that the Washington or the Colorado Avalanche exhale, maybe fall flat, maybe stumble in this spot. I'll actually like Washington in this spot a little bit, +170. This is a team that can be erratic. I get it. They got embarrassed by Toronto, and that is definitely in the back of my head because Toronto's got so many of the same attributes and elements that Colorado has, with speed, with forward depth, with the ability to punish you defensively, with the ability to just light up a goaltending duo that's not exactly shutting the door right now if you're Washington. Speaking of course, Ilya Samsonov and Vitek Vanacek, who have been kind of up and down, ragged lately, their play in net. That does concern me. But when you look at this situation, if you're Colorado, I mean, you've got the #1 seed clinched. You're going to just probably look to maybe give ice time to some of these college call-ups. We already see this young player from Denver University, the newly crowned Frozen Four champions just recently for Colorado, called up Ben Myers. I don't know if he's going to be in tonight, but he did get some playing time against Carolina and scored in his NHL debut on 2 shots in that win against Carolina. So Ben Myers, and just one example of, Colorado probably going to give some young kids a little bit of a look now that they've really wrapped up everything here in this game. Lack of defensive intensity could come into play. I mean, you could see that as well. And I keep saying it about the Washington Capitals, Andrew. It's pretty crazy, this over streak that's just developed
yeah,
all of a sudden for this team. I mean, they're just an over machine, night in and night out. I didn't necessarily see it coming. And before this streak started, I didn't necessarily think of Washington as a dead nuts over team and capable of a run where they've gone, basically in their last 10 games, 8-1-1 to the over in their
yeah,
last 10 games entering this. But that it is what it is. They're scoring goals. They've been able to do that. They hung a 9 spot on Philly. They put up 8 against Montreal. They've been able to get pretty much at least 3 in every recent game as well. When you look at the forward group too, they're finally healthy, right? You've got Kuznetsov, Ovechkin, Backstrom, Oshie. You got everybody of it. Mantha, of course, who's had injuries. Wilson even missed some time earlier this year. You got everybody healthy right now except for Carl Hagelin up front. So that obviously has made this team much better offensively. But the defensive issues still kind of remain. I mean, with this team, they're still giving up goals. We've seen that, especially to really good teams. Samsonov and Vanacek have been fighting the puck a bit. So I certainly would look over the total or nothing here when it comes to the total in this game, even with 6.5 shaded to the over at -130. So I'm probably going to look at those two ways of betting this one from a side and total perspective. I think there's a live dog here in Washington, just given Colorado clinched everything on Saturday. So I'd look to them at +170, and I'd look over 6.5 here as well. Andrew, what do you think? Washington, Colorado.
I just got to ask you. I mean, a lot of people think that Colorado does care about that President's Trophy. Do you not think that that's a factor here?
I think they'd like it. Are they gonna be crestfallen if they don't get it? No. So it's
my way of thinking, Ian, is kind of like just don't think that they want to go into the playoffs on a lazy mode. That's the only thing. I think Colorado is a kind of team that you saw what happened to them against Vegas when they went up. What was it, 3-1?
Yeah.
I mean that was second round, right? They got cocky, and that was embarrassing for a team like that to let that happen.
President's Trophy is a jinx, though, as Tim said. It's true. The President's Trophy track record in the playoffs has been brutal.
Yeah.
Interesting. I think for one night, though, Andrew, tonight, just for one game, they're not going to obviously skid going into the playoffs for 2 weeks straight here to end the regular season. But for one night against a capable Washington Capitals team, this could be a spot where Colorado's not at their absolute best. And that's why
I'll just take the over.
Yep.
I'll just take. And you know what, Ian? I don't always do this, but this is one of those games. I did it the other day with a Maple Leafs game. I can't remember what it was, but it might have been Leafs and Capitals at some point. But I'm going to take the 7 at +105. Just based off the better number here, then you're going to get laying a bunch of juice on the totals. And sometimes I say I don't mind laying juice on totals, but that's more so for a 5.5 versus a 6. If I'm liking a 6.5 over, chances are I don't mind that 7, and I feel like it's going to be a goal fest. So, like I said, it's not unusual for the Colorado Avalanche to be involved. And look what they did against Carolina, leading them into a 7-4 type of hockey game. And that just looked like pond hockey out there, but it really wasn't. It's just really a lot of talent on the ice. And when you mix these two teams, it's going to be hard to find defense here. Not a good night to be a goaltender if you play for Colorado or Washington.
Yeah, that's another thing that I think lends to the over is Colorado just clinching too. You could, you've been trying to get that number 1 seed. You've got it. I think you still, you'd like to get the President's Trophy. You'll live if you don't get it. But tonight's that night where, you've really pushed hard to clinch this number 1 seed in the West. You've got it now. Defensively, I think they're not quite as, do you block that extra shot that you would otherwise? You dive in front of a puck tonight in a spot like this. I don't know if you do. So I think you'll probably get a little bit of a pond hockey type of game here, Washington and Colorado tonight. All right, New Jersey, Vegas. We've got the Golden Knights -350 home favorite, 6.5 the total. They are really up against it. Vegas has got to get things rolling. That was a big setback against Edmonton. Every loss right now for them is a setback because, they are still, when you look at the standings, 4 points behind Dallas and Nashville for the 2 wild card spots, 3 points behind LA for the third place spot in the Pacific, which would get them in the playoffs as well. But like I said just a minute ago, it's probably a more plausible thing catching LA. That being said, LA's got a Sisters of the Poor schedule the rest of the way. We've talked about that yesterday on the show. I mean, that's a joke, the schedule the LA Kings have. It couldn't have lined up better for them. If somehow they don't get into the playoffs, they need to look hard in the mirror and say, what the fuck have we done? We've basically screwed up this great opportunity here in front of us to make the playoffs if they don't get in with that joke of a schedule. I mean, my goodness. I'm going to bring it up here again just to reiterate it because it's just so funny to see how easy it is down the stretch. At Anaheim, home to Chicago, home to Anaheim, at Seattle. Those are just the next 4 games for the LA Kings. The one game and at Vancouver at the end of the season. And Vancouver could be out of it by then. I mean, so, wow. LA Kings just absolutely got the dream schedule for them to try to get this playoff spot clinched. That's going to go work against Vegas, unfortunately. So Vegas got to win games like this. I think they come out strong here early. A Vegas first period puck line I like. A Vegas team total over 1.5 at a plus price in the first period I like. I like the Vegas team total over 4.5. The full game puck line. This is a really load up on Vegas spot for me. because we've seen against inferior competition, needing to win, backs against the wall, coming off just a shutout loss against Edmonton. They're not going to be thrilled. I think Vegas just no screwing around tonight. We bury this team early, and we get it done. So it's a lot of Vegas bets for me. Again, we're going to be small, each of them. It's not like we're going one unit each on all these Vegas bets. This is like a combined 1 unit for me. We got like quarter units on each one, maybe a little bit more than 1 unit total. When you talk Vegas first period puck line, Vegas team total over, Vegas full game puck line, full game over. Yeah, but I think I trust Vegas to do more of the scoring, because I could see 5-1, 6-1, something like the way they beat Arizona just recently at home, something like that. But I think New Jersey's walking into a team that's not messing around tonight in this game. And we know this Devils team defensively is still a hot mess. And the goaltending, whether it's Dawes or Gillies right now for the rest of the season, is just not goaltending that you trust night in and night out to shut the door and keep the puck out of the net. And, of course, New Jersey's coming off a 4-3 shootout loss against Seattle in their last game. So I think it's just one of those situations where Vegas is focused. Vegas knows they need these 2 points desperately, and they don't mess around here tonight against the Devils. What do you think here, Andrew?
Well, over the past week and a half, we've been talking about how these big games don't necessarily mean that you're going to win, even though you really want to. But at home, especially lately, seeing what they've done, really since I think it's because of me, because ever since that game that I went to against Florida, they've been a good team at home.
Yeah, they beat Florida. They beat Nashville at home, I remember, and they put the boots to Nashville. So they've had some really big, good. Their best performances have been at home. Let's be honest. And
that wasn't the case for a large part of the season, right? They've definitely changed that a little bit. But I agree with you. I think they need to have a good start. I'm not going to wait for 60 minutes to try and cash a ticket. I'm going to try and cash a ticket in the first period with the -0.5 goal first period. This is one of those ones where they don't want to be playing from behind. They're going to want to play it safe, though. That's one thing that worries me about taking that -0.5 goal. Of course, you have to win the first period, not get the push with the money line. But I do think they'll come out and New Jersey, they're a mess defensively. I can't trust them defensively to take care of the puck. Lots of pressure from a healthier Vegas team probably to come. And again, we talked about it all year long. -350 current money line price. You can get that nice little short plus money price if you try and win in the first period.
And I think this is one of those nights, too. Not just that they need the 2 points for the playoffs, goes without saying, to try to make it, but Robin Lehner's confirmed in net. This guy's gone through a lot. He's had some issues off the ice. He's had people ripping him on social media to the point where he's deactivated his social media account because of it, and the harassment and the haranguing he's taken for some of his play lately where he struggled. I think this is a rally the troops around this guy tonight and really play dogged and determined for 60 minutes in this game too. So I think that's an element that really you factor in. I mean, for some people might think, oh, Leonard's in net. Oh, geez, he hasn't played well lately. Oh, New Jersey might be live here. I think it's the opposite, where Vegas is really going to rally.
Thompson was expected to play, actually. That's the funny thing about that, is that people were, and it's bad with him when people are cheering on Thompson to start, when many people didn't even know who he was probably about 40 days ago.
And he's been good, but probably one of his shakier outings against Edmonton, to be quite honest, because actually Vegas was carrying the play, dictating terms, and there were a couple of those goals that I think Logan would have wanted against Edmonton. And the young kids played great, Thompson, no question about that. But he is still a young guy. Let's calm down a little bit. Let's see how Leonard does here. Again, Leonard has struggled. There's no argument there. But this is not necessarily a situation where he's incapable of getting his game back on track. He's a veteran guy. He's been there, done that. And I think they really play good in front of him tonight to really help him out. So we'll see it. That's why I'm veering more toward Vegas doing the scoring. That's why that 6.5, I'm a little bit more leery on that, because I think Vegas is going to want to play a good defensive game. But at the same time, I think they'll probably score a handful here against New Jersey tonight. All right, next up, we've got Carolina and Arizona in this one. And, of course, Carolina, what a brutal weekend for them. Terrible. I mean, they lose the game against Colorado 7-4, the big showdown. That's not even the least of their problems. It's the injuries they suffered in that game. And obviously, those are going to be a factor moving forward. You talk about Jordan Staal, the captain for the Carolina Hurricanes. And, of course, the big one being Frederik Andersen. Man, just when I was thinking Frederik Andersen going to get through a whole season unscathed and in full health, and Sure enough, down to the last 2 weeks of the season, disaster strikes. And he gets hurt, obviously, in the game against Colorado. And now the time frame for him, we'll have to wait and see what it is. The latest update on Stahl is, day to day. So the good news is it doesn't look like it's long term for him. The injury for Anderson, also day to day. So that's a little bit more optimistic. But I've seen Frederik Andersen injuries, Andrew, for years now, especially with the Leafs. Day to day turns into week to week and sometimes months with this guy.
And they're always around the exact same time of year, it seems, always in the worst possible time. And someone that doesn't want to, I mean, some people take injuries and they go out for like 3 to 7 days. For him, when he gets injured, usually it's at least a month.
Yep. No, absolutely. And that's the problem. I mean, right now it's day to day. Are we going to guarantee this is only going to be a few days that we're without Frederik Andersen? No, not at all. Because it seems his recovery from and this is another one of those groin area, lower body injuries that he suffered on Saturday, which has been the area he's had problems with throughout the last few years. So I definitely think that's going to be something to monitor here moving forward. There's a lot of rumblings going on that there's some dysfunction with Carolina, that not everybody's on the same page. They're now right back to tied with the Rangers for first place in the Metropolitan Division. Which is interesting. Of course, right now, the first place team in the Metro is probably going to get Boston in the first round. That's assuming that Boston doesn't catch Tampa for third in the Atlantic, which they still could because they're only 3 points back. But as of right now, Carolina plays Boston in the first round of the playoffs if the playoffs were to start today. And, of course, Florida would play Washington. I think that is pretty much set in stone that Florida would play Washington right now. I think Florida is going to be the number 1 overall seed in the East, and I think Washington's a shoe-in to be the second wild card. So I think we can almost set in stone that it's going to be Florida-Washington in the first round. It's just what about the other matchups? How's it going to be? But I have to think, even with Carolina struggling, even with Carolina having some problems lately, they've not exactly played good hockey, consistent hockey for the last 2 weeks. There's been a bunch of issues, Andrew. What's happened to the power play? Power play has been dreadful for Carolina the last couple of weeks, which is a little bit surprising with the names you can put out there on a power play with Trocheck, Teravainen, Svechnikov, Aho, Niederreiter, Marty Necas when he's going. I mean, you've got, and we just haven't seen that power play click. Their defensive game at times has not also been good, but I think it's more their offense at times has really struggled, and even the defense falls apart against Colorado on Saturday night. There's a lot of issues right now with Carolina, and I understand trepidation right now with this group and backing them. And now the injuries to Jordan Stahl and Freddie Anderson and Antti Raanta in between the pipes here for the Carolina Hurricanes. I get all that. That being said, I will repeat this again. Arizona is unbackable. Unfucking backable. All right? There is no way I'm putting a penny of my money on this Arizona team. None. Zero. And I keep hearing, they got their ass kicked 9-1. They're back home. They're embarrassed. They'll show up tonight. They've had 5 chances to show up after an embarrassing loss, and they still haven't. You know why they haven't? Because they can't compete. This roster is an AHL roster. Simple as that. Chychrun, Keller, Krause, and I'm just getting started with who's out for them. There's absolutely no way Arizona can compete with anybody in this league right now with this roster. And I know Carolina's struggling right now, but man, this is absolutely the spot here for Carolina to wake up, smack someone down, and wake up from this little malaise here. And I think this first game with the couple of injuries, the 7-4 loss to Colorado, I think it's absolutely a spot here for Carolina. Like, Arizona's horrible. You can have your issues all you want with trusting Carolina and worrying about the way they're playing right now. I do worry. After tonight, I worry all over again for Carolina. But do I worry tonight against this Arizona team? I don't. They're going to roll this team, in my opinion. I'm already on -1.5, -145 puck line. I'm not stopping with the puck lines against this Arizona team. I'm not. I mean, what is there to like about Arizona exactly right now? There's nothing. I mean, the goaltending is horrible. The defense can't stop anybody. Phil Kessel floating around out there doing dick all. because this season's over for him. Is a veteran guy in a miserable hockey team and a miserable franchise. You think that guy's fired up and
Yeah,
motivated and amped up
he's not
right
living
now?
in a miserable place in the world, though. That's the thing. He probably gets out of practice and he gets
Yeah,
off, and it's sunny skies and a nice condo or wherever he lives. I mean, let's be honest here. He's, even though you're playing on a bad team, I'm sure he's not minding the atmosphere after the game's over.
yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I'm just amazed on Twitter and people I know, people on this show like Jimmy Murphy, giving me this nonsense that Coyotes are his best bet tonight. I mean, my goodness. I mean, my gosh, what are we thinking here? Now, maybe they do shock here. Maybe Carolina is so foregone right now, and the injuries are so much an issue that they lose tonight. I can't see it. Like, I know they get shut out by Detroit. They lose 7-4 to Colorado. It's not good. Let's not forget though, the Detroit game, 3-0 looks bad, losing to the Red Wings shutout at home. 46-22 were the shots, and Nedeljkovic had an axe to grind and wants to prove a point playing his former team, and he did that in that game against the Detroit, against the Red Wings, or against the Hurricanes, I should say, shutting them out 3-0. I mean, 6 straight losses, all of them by 4 goals or more for Arizona. 5-1, 5-1, 6-1, 6-2, 7-1, 9-1. The defense is not getting any better. So there's a lot I like here. I like Carolina team total. I took over 4 at -130 as opposed to the 4.5 at a plus price, just in case they end up just with 4. I think they're going to get way more than 4 against Arizona tonight, but I do like that Carolina team total over 4 as well. Carolina -1.5. I'm going to do the 2.5 and 3.5 sprinkle as well on Carolina puck line that I did with Calgary against Arizona on Saturday night. I think it could get ugly again for the Arizona Coyotes. I really do. And I know a couple of key guys out stalled, and they're going to have Ronta in net. But Ronta is a veteran goalie. He's capable. You look at his recent starts. He's been a little bit better, in the last few outings he's had. His numbers overall on the year, 2.44 goals against. They are 12-7. The Hurricanes with him starting in net this year, so do have a decent record with him in there. To me, I don't know. I just think Arizona's just dead. They don't have the roster. They don't have the artillery. They don't have the depth. They don't have the defense. They don't have the goaltending, whether it's Karel Vejmelka, whether it's Hari Sateri, or anybody else they throw in there in net. They are playing behind just a woeful defense right now. Injury related, lack of depth related, all of that stuff. So it's all things Carolina for me. Mostly the puck line -1.5 and the team total over 4. I wouldn't talk anyone out of the full game over 6, because this could be your typical 6-1, 7-1, even 7-3 if Arizona chips in a little bit. The full game over. Certainly, I'm not betting this Arizona team with their defense and goaltending under anytime soon. So I'd probably look in that direction as well. Andrew, what do you think? Carolina, Arizona.
Well, I was going to ask you, Ian, did you hear about that person's car that got broken into in Arizona? They actually left 3 tickets when they left. That's how bad the Coyotes are playing right now. People are leaving tickets after they rob somebody. Look, I mean, someone commented in our live chat, what are the tickets free right now for the Coyotes? Are they giving them away on the street?
Yeah.
I mean, no
I
wonder
have
they're
legit
moving
concerns they're going to fill that little dumpy arena that they're building on that college campus.
ASU.
ASU, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely in question. Look, you've said quite a bit there about a team that sucks. Clearly, you have some passion. Clearly, you're ready to make some money and continue to do so often. So I won't take much time on this one, but what I will say is this. I've played several overs in the past month in the Coyote games. And people are asking, why aren't you just playing the puck lines? Because the reason why you're betting these overs is because you expect them to get stomped. And I guess one of the main reasons has been better odds, right? An over 6 at -110 versus, a puck line at -150, or even a money line at -390 like this. But this is actually one, Ian, that I'm going to say that Arizona's not going to win, I don't think, but they might get a couple, which is going to help me with this over. I could expect a 5-3 game here tonight.
Yeah.
6-2. Who's to say that Arizona is going to be able to play a good 60-minute defensive game? I don't think anybody. Actually, one person is saying that. Jimmy likes Arizona tonight.
I know.
We don't have him on the show to actually explain why. But I'm assuming Jimmy is seeing how bad Carolina's playing right now, and he thinks Arizona will get a few past them. And if that's the case, I like the over. So I think that if we're going to see any goals from Arizona, we're certainly going to see some from Carolina. So Carolina has struggled, but they won't struggle against a team like Arizona. So I don't blame you. It's funny. Look at what Vegas did against Arizona last week. Then you see what Calgary did just a few days ago against them. And you know how sometimes, Ian, and when you're handicapping, you've been doing this a lot longer than me.
New Jersey goes into the desert and
Exactly.
beats them 6-2. That's New
Well,
Jersey doing that for crying out loud.
And you know how sometimes you look at a spot like that and you think to yourself, well, maybe I should hop off this streak. No, don't hop off it at all. No. Keep it going because it's making you money. That's the way I see it with this. But I'm actually just on the over, Ian.
Yeah, I'll be on the over too because I actually did take over against Cal. I've actually been on the over with Arizona as well. But this has been puck line and over repeatedly for me. Puck line for the opponent of Arizona and the over in these recent games. That's what I did with Vancouver. That's what I did. I actually just took the over with the Arizona-New Jersey game. Vegas and I just took Vegas in that one. But I did take the over, the full game over in the New Jersey-Zona game, the Vancouver-Arizona game, and the Calgary-Arizona game. So I'll be on that as well here tonight, along with Carolina puck line -1.5, -150, and a small sprinkle on those -2.5. A great plus. Alternative puck lines are worth a sprinkle right now, in my opinion, against this Arizona team because we're seeing it. We saw it against Calgary. It was a nice start, a little confidence, right? 1-0 lead early in that game. And then when things start to go south, things start to go wrong for Arizona, you just see what happens. The bottom falls out. That's what we're seeing right now with the Coyotes. So that's why it's something to keep in mind with the Arizona, with the Coyotes tonight. That if, from a live betting standpoint, let's say they get up 1-0 tonight. Once Carolina ties that game, take Carolina. Because we're seeing just as soon as something bad happens to them, the psyche is just so bad with this team right now that they just fall apart and they crumble right before our very eyes. All of it roster. Again, this is
Ian,
a lot of this is roster
don't
related.
Take the first period puck line with Carolina tonight. I'm not saying it's not going to hit, but to the point you just made, when you fade Arizona, fade them in 60 minutes.
Yeah.
Because through 60 minutes, they'll collapse and embarrass themselves. They might play a good 20. But they aren't going to give you a good 60. So, because some people love to play those first 20 minutes all the time, I don't bet them every game. This is a game where I would say, hey, just take the full game puck line. Don't try and win money in this one in 20 minutes. Personally, anyway.
I'll say this. I'll give Jimmy Murphy praise upon praise upon praise the next time he's on this show if Arizona wins tonight. I will. There's no doubt about that.
I'll buy him an Arizona jersey. Put it on record.
There you go. Buy him a Coyotes jersey. Make him president of the fan club. He's the only one in the fan club, probably. But there you go. Ottawa, Seattle. Seattle
you can pay $20 Ian and get season tickets next year.
Yeah, dirt cheap. Hey, I might just do that just because it'd be so bloody affordable.
Just start doing Twitter giveaways. Yeah, I have these tickets. You just live in Ontario.
Yeah, no doubt. Ottawa, Seattle. Seattle -125, home favorites, 6 the total. I like Ottawa here a little bit. Plus 105. They probably could have beat the Leafs on Saturday when they played them. I like the way, I like the effort we're seeing from the Senators night in, night out basis for this group. The Toronto game was a great effort. They beat Boston 3-2, big upset there. They beat Detroit 4-1. They gave Winnipeg all kinds of trouble, only lost 4-3. So I like the last little 4-game stretch we've seen out of the Sens. They won 2 games and 1-goal losses to Winnipeg and Toronto, and they held a lead against the Leafs. So I like them at a road. An underdog is going to win at some point the rest of this NHL season, even though we're talking 22-0 with favorites the last 3 days going into tonight. I think it's a good spot. This is a good spot to take a shot with a slight underdog. It's not much, plus 105, but I like Ottawa here a little bit. And again, 2 teams out of the playoffs. From a totals perspective, I would only look over in a situation like this. Andrew, Ottawa, Seattle. You're muted, Andrew.
Yeah, I like Ottawa.
There you go.
I think I'm just the Wi-Fi. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yep, we got you now.
Yeah, do you have me?
Yep.
0.5 goals against on the year for Seattle. Both goaltenders haven't been that great, and you look at how they've been at home, not too solid. I mean, a team that I thought was going to be a much better team at home, but the split hasn't really been that different. And you mentioned that game against Toronto. I thought Ottawa performed very well. I like the way their top six are playing, and getting on the road might be a good thing for them as well. I feel like an Ottawa team that's so young like that, they can perform on the road, and it's a good opportunity for them at an underdog price. Because how often do you want to bet on them as favorites? Not too often. But at plus 105 in a game where I think that the odds aren't what they should be, it's a good spot for them. And Ian, next game up, Vancouver Dallas. I like the under 5.5. Best bet's going to be the over 7 for me in the Capitals game, and I actually have to go off to dinner right now, so I'm
Exactly.
going to
That's
head
why I
out.
was trying to hustle us along. All right.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
Dallas, Vancouver, yeah, minus 110 both sides, 5.5 the total in that game. You like the under? Is there any lean on a
yes.
side perspective? Because I'll tell you guys right now with Dallas, Vancouver, great game to watch. Vancouver's got to have it. They must get the 2 points here. Will they get it? I don't know. I don't want to take Dallas when I think I'm going to get Vancouver's most desperate effort right here tonight. So it's a pass for me. Really, this game. It's a good game to watch. It's fair. Vancouver's got to get
Lean
it.
Dallas
Dallas,
for me.
lean Dallas for you. All right. Yeah, and we'll see if Dallas and obviously if Vancouver loses tonight, they're pretty much that's it for them if they don't get the win tonight. So and remember, Dallas isn't rolling over. They still need every point they can get. Holding
Yeah.
on to that second wild card spot right now. All right, Andrew, we'll let you go.
All right.
Have a great Monday. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you. You too.
All right, there he is, Andrew McInnis on the Monday edition of the Ice Guys. Yeah, I'll add a couple things. Certainly, Dallas. They're not. They don't win games pretty, but they find a way most nights. Big problem too for the Vancouver Canucks is just the adding injury situations too that they've got, and that's what I know we're going to get absolute desperation, urgency. This is backs against the wall. We need 2 points tonight. We're currently trailing Dallas by 7 points for one of the two final wild card spots, and trailing LA by 6 points for third in the Pacific. I mean, this is an absolute must for Vancouver, but I don't like the growing amount of injuries. How can you? I mean, Brock Besser, of course, is still out of action, probably won't return. He's missed the last 5 games. Bo Horvat, the captain, his season's over after a right leg injury that was suffered Thursday night against Arizona. In that game against the Coyotes, that's an issue. The leader of the team, and he's played very well for the Canucks down the stretch, trying to get them into the playoffs. That was a season-ending injury for him Thursday against Arizona. Tanner Pearson's still out. Niels Höglander, who is a young, 21-year-old who's really started to really play some nice hockey the last few games we saw him. And of course, he's been out now for a while. So it's just a growing amount of injuries and key ones for the Vancouver Canucks that are concerning going into this game. On the flip side, Dallas, look, they're finding ways to win. They beat San Jose 2-1. They beat Tampa 1-0. Not pretty against Chicago, but they found a way against them 6-4. The only loss in their last 4 games was a 3-2 overtime loss to the Minnesota Wild. But that's what you get with Dallas. Each of the last 3 games have been decided by 1 goal. Alex P. Smith loves his draws and likes betting draw wagers, especially at this time of year, late in the regular season. If I was going to look at a draw bet tonight, it could be this game. I mean, it's not really beneficial for Vancouver for it to go beyond regulation and get to overtime or a shootout, because any point that Dallas picks up is really not good for the Vancouver Canucks. It's not good at all. But definitely this game, I think, is going to be pretty tight, pretty close. I think the draw, certainly, you could make a good case for it here in this game tonight between the Dallas Stars and the Vancouver Canucks. So keep that in mind. Player props tonight, before we wrap it up with best bets and wrap up the show. I mean, certainly player props for the Calgary Flames right now. Lindholm, Tkachuk, Monahan. Or not Monahan. Definitely not Monahan. Lindholm, Tkachuk, and Gaudreau. I mean, you start and you end there with player props for them. Chicago, I'll tell you what, for Chicago right now, there's a couple of, we obviously Kane and DeBrincat and Dylan Strome. I've mentioned them a lot for Chicago player props, whether it's points or goal scorer props. But consider, Taylor Radish. Consider, Lucas Reichel a little bit, because they've chipped in a little bit lately as well for the Chicago Blackhawks. And I think someone to watch for tonight going into this game is Dominic Kubalik. This is a guy that was a healthy scratch for 3 games in a row by Derek King against Dallas, LA, and San Jose. They put him back in the lineup Saturday against Nashville. And in his first game after being a healthy scratch, they weren't happy with his play. They weren't happy with his lack of production lately. And he scores a goal in his return to the lineup against Nashville. You know how those things work. Sometimes that's a slap in the face and a wake-up call when you are a healthy scratch and you're benched, for a few games there. So definitely Kubalik, and they're putting him on the second line. So that might be a consideration tonight too for shots on goal and player props. And again, Calgary tonight, I don't know if they're going to be locked in defensively, clinched the playoff spot the other night. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Washington, Colorado. When I look at the line combinations there, again, I want guys that are going to in good form right now, players that are going to get ice time. We're interested in all of those things. Certainly for a Washington standpoint right now, Kuznetsov, you can't go wrong. He's been absolutely outstanding lately. Oshie as well. Colorado, Val Nichushkin playing on the top line here with the Colorado Avalanche now tonight with McKinnon and with Rantanen. Again, with Landeskog still out, they've experimented with Nichushkin on the top line. Excuse me. And you look at what he's done for Colorado. 6 points for Colorado in the last 4 games. He's been absolutely impressive for Colorado since going to the top line. So definitely when you look at Nichushkin props tonight, makes sense whether it's to score a goal, shots on goal, points props. That's a good option. Nate McKinnon, of course, you can never say anything wrong about McKinnon or Rantanen either, but I think Nichushkin in particular, because you get a little more value with Nichushkin compared to the other 2 guys on that top line. And certainly Washington. That's a good prop game, Washington, Colorado, because I think you'll see both teams find the back of the net. Burakovsky could be something you look at as well here in this one. Ovechkin goes with Ovechkin even to score 2+ goals tonight in this game, because, he's trying to get to the 50-goal plateau, and he is feeling it right now. There's no question. So that's an option as well. New Jersey, Vegas, Jack Eichel, Jonathan Marchessault, Pacioretty, Stone. Don't overcomplicate it. Focus really on those 4 guys. Those are the 4 that have really been Dadonov as well. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention him, but Evgeny Dadonov, of course, as well, who has 5 points in the last 4 games, who has scored 2 goals in the last 4 games as well. So points and goals with any of those Vegas Golden Knights players: Eichel, Marchessault, Stone, Pacioretty, Dadonov. Those have been the key 5, the critical 5 that have been carrying the load for the Vegas Golden Knights offensively. And I would certainly look in that direction once again tonight with them. Those same players here against the New Jersey Devils, who I think are probably going to give up, a decent amount of goals tonight with that defense, and a very angry, certainly, Vegas Golden Knights team. The only thing I'd look at for New Jersey is Jesper Bratt's really starting to roll again as well for the New Jersey Devils in the last few games. We talked about our whiz kid, Fabian Zetterlund, and we cashed a magical winner in his first game playing on the top line for the Devils against against Arizona last week. But he's played on the top line each of the last 2 games as well, and didn't register a point in either game against. Let me see who the last 2 games were. It was. I had it on the screen here just a minute ago. It was Colorado and Seattle. Yeah, those last 2 games, he did not score or register a point in any of those games. So, but I might take a small shot once again with him here, because he is going to get those top line minutes, and he's not being priced like it. Carolina, Arizona. I mean, take your pick on Carolina players, but certainly it starts and ends with Natchez has actually started to get going at times lately, but Teravainen, Trocheck, Svechnikov, Aho, Niederreiter, don't overthink it. I mean, if they're going to bust out, if they're going to lay a crooked number on Arizona, which I think they're very capable of, those are the guys to get it done. So goal scorer and points props with them makes sense. The only guy I would take for Arizona right now is probably Schmaltz, and we've talked about him repeatedly for the Arizona Coyotes and the job he's done all season for them. Thank goodness they at least still have him, or else things would really be in trouble. But one other guy too to keep in mind is this Michael Carcone. He has actually been noticeable as well for Arizona. But like I say, Arizona I think is going to have probably another long night. So I'd probably stick to Schmaltz if I were to take anyone on the Coyotes. Ottawa, Seattle. When you look at certainly would look more toward probably some Ottawa player props. Timmy Stützle is a must right now. What he's doing is very impressive. Josh Norris and Brady Tkachuk as well have played well lately, but Stützle in particular, this is incredible for him. He has got a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 game point streak going. And in the last 3 games, Boston, Detroit, Toronto, he has 8 points and 4 goals in the last 3 games combined. It is absolutely no debate. If you're going to focus on one player tonight for Ottawa, it's Timmy Stützle in terms of the props. Goal scorer prop, points, shots on goal, no question about that. He's just feeling it right now for the Senators. Tkachuk's got 6 points in the last 4 games, 3 goals in the last 4 games. I mentioned that. Josh Norris is a point producer and a point machine going back over the last 8 games. He has 6, 8, 9, 10, 11 points in the last 8 games for the Ottawa Senators. That's definitely someone to consider as well. Batherson started to get going again. He's had so many injuries, starts and stops to his season. Missed 3 more games early in April, but 3 games coming back. He's got a point in 2 of those games since returning from injury. So Batherson as well. So those are definitely some Ottawa Senators worth looking at from a prop standpoint. Dallas, Vancouver, I probably wouldn't look at too much from a prop standpoint in this game, other than maybe Seguin, because to Tyler Seguin's credit, we're seeing him pick it up here in these very important games for his hockey team down the stretch, or Rupe Hintz, who, of course, has had a magnificent season for Dallas and has 6 points in the last 4 games, 2 goals in those last 4 games. So Rupe Hintz points certainly can't argue with that. But for Tyler Seguin, he scored against San Jose the other night. He has scored 4 goals in the last 7 games. So Tyler Seguin as well, and Rupe Hintz for Dallas. For Vancouver, you'd think it's got to be JT Miller in a big game. You got to think it's going to be Elias Pettersson's got to step up with Bo Horvat out. Podkolzin is actually, and Chason as well. This 31-year-old veteran for the Vancouver Canucks, suddenly in the last 5 games, he has a whopping 9 points for the Vancouver Canucks in the last 5 games. That's Alex Chason, the veteran. Of course, was with Ottawa much earlier in his career. That's pretty insane. What he's been able to do. 9 points in the last 5 games, 5 goals for Alex Chason in the last 5 games as well. Podkolzin had a 3-point game against Arizona, and he scored 3 goals in the last 2 games, and he has 6 points in the last 4 games for the Vancouver Canucks. So there you go. Podkolzin, good value. Alex Chason, how can you argue with taking him tonight in some form, scoring a goal or points with just he's feeling it. He's getting, I think, more minutes as well. I'm pretty sure they've got him moved up the lineup because of how well he's playing right now. Yeah, they got him on the second line. Alex Chason playing alongside JT Miller and Vasily Podkolzin. That is the second line right now for the Vancouver Canucks. And this Chason run has just been absolutely fantastic lately. So there you go, guys. I mean, we figured we'd have a little extra time, shorter card. You make no mistake about it. Many of the players I mentioned in each of these games on this Monday card, I'm going to be sprinkling on goal scorer props and points over with all those players I mentioned. I like all of them. So if you missed it, rewind or watch the show again and you'll hear it. I think there's some good prop opportunities tonight here on this NHL card. Again, keep these smaller. These are smaller bets when it comes to player props than my sides and my totals pregame. So, but definitely good prices, good opportunities, good value. And again, you're targeting these players that are in good current form, players that are going to get ice time, players that for the most part are going to be in the top 6 forward group with their team tonight will get some power play time as well. Those are the areas you target with players in terms of betting their player props. Just a very, very important piece of advice for sure. Moving forward, if you're going to bet NHL player props. All right, there's the Monday card. We'll wrap it up with best bet for me in just a second. Before we do that, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers can bet just $1 on any NHL team and win and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's right. New customers, you can get involved and get $150 in free bets with a $1 bet if your team wins. If DraftKings Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings daily fantasy hockey contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet just $1 on any NHL team and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Must be 21 years of age or older. Must reside in a DraftKings Sportsbook state. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Download the DraftKings app, sign up for an account, and use the promo code THPN. All right, it is time for best bets here to wrap it up for this Monday edition of the Ice Guys. And for me, it's going to be Carolina, -1.5, -150. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. 6 straight losses for Arizona, all by 4 goals or more. The defense is horrendous. The goaltending is nowhere near NHL level to make up for just these horrendous defensive errors that Arizona's having. They have a depleted, gutted roster. I've got to believe that Carolina does not want to continue to go down the path of struggling going into the playoffs, and especially after a 7-4 loss to Colorado. I expect them not to take Arizona lightly. Come out here, mean business, make a statement, and I think they will. Carolina hands, I think, Arizona another loss by margin here tonight. Carolina -1.5 on the puck line, -150 against Arizona. No Stahl, no Anderson tonight, but I don't think it'll be a problem here for the Hurricanes. I think they get it done on the puck line against Arizona. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That'll be my best bet for this Monday NHL card. And that'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. We have a big Tuesday tomorrow. Remember, the regular daily show, 2 p.m. Eastern time, as always. And then the Betcast, another Ice Guys Tuesday live Betcast tomorrow night, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, a 10-game NHL card on Tuesday. Send me a DM if you want to join us on the Betcast, and I will send you the link before the Betcast begins. Looking forward to it. We've only got 2 regular season Tuesday Betcasts left, tomorrow night and then the following Tuesday. So looking forward to tomorrow night as we have a big 10-game slate to be excited about for the Betcast tomorrow night. So Ice Guys regular daily show, 2 p.m. Eastern, and the Betcast at 7 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night. Make sure you join us for both of those. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Andrew McInnis, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Monday. Enjoy the games and good luck, and we will talk to you again tomorrow on Tuesday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by the Hockey Podcast Network.